put them in the cooler, threw ice on them, because I knew the kids were going to be home that week, and I went out to see my kids. So the first complex that I went into, I had my windows down, and I heard a little boy, he was probably about 8 or 9. Man, y'all shut up, there's the police. You better hush. And I mean, they were out. I bet there were 40 kids out there running around. And he was going, hey, y'all hush. He was watching me just pull down through there. Finally, I got about middle ways in the complex, put my patrol car in park. I stepped out the door, and that same little boy says, "That's not the police, that's Officer Rowel." And all of them went, they just converged on me. But as an SRO, it was the first time that I was really able to comprehend and internalize that not all kids like to hear the bell ring to go home every day. Not all kids like to hear the bell ring at the end of the year to get a summer break. For some of them, the school is their refuge. That's their safe haven. But I tell you that for this reason. I work for an organization here in town. It's the Charlton Fraternal Order of Police. And we do outreach programs with these kids. We have summer camps. We have our biggest event with them, with the Shop with a Cop every year. We take underprivileged kids shopping, and we buy them Christmas. We do a lot of work with the Special Olympics here in town. We also have a summer camp for the special needs kids. We also take the special needs kids shopping with us when we do Shop with a Cop. We do special needs kids one day, and then underprivileged kids the next day. People who have been through house fires, people who are flat on their back from illness, if there is a need, we try our best to fill it. Me personally, the last time I landed flat on my back, I'm in ICU. The tumor had popped out into the back of my throat. It was paralyzing my vocatory, so I lost my ability to speak. I was down to a whisper. I opened my eyes, I had a trach. I opened my eyes, I looked up, I had the deputy chief on my right, the chief on my left, and there was about 15 officers in my room. And I looked at them and I said, apparently nobody wanted to tell y'all that I'm only allowed 2 visitors at a time. I said, so some of y'all got to get out. And they knew I was messing with them. And Deputy Chief said, well, it's good to see you still got a sense of humor. He said, tell me what you need right now. And I said, Chief, I don't need anything. I said, I'm good. I'll be all right. He said, no. He said, tell me what you need right now. You need something. He said, do you need money? Are you okay financially? I said, no, Chief, I'm good. I said, really, I'm good. He said, there's something at your house. Do you need anything for your house? And it hit me. I told him, I said, hey, I have a wood burning heater in my basement. And normally this time of year I cut firewood. I usually cut ceramic loads of firewood. And I just have not had the opportunity to cut firewood. And apparently, by the looks of me right now, I'm going to be at home for a while. So, firewood, if you can get me some firewood. Ladies and gentlemen, 2 years after the fact, I still have not cut or split the first piece of firewood because the FOP has brought so much firewood in my house. So, that's who the FOP is, that's what the FOP does. If at the end of this seminar, if you say to yourself, okay, this is valuable information, I am very thankful he did, then I ask that you consider making a donation to them on my behalf. If I can give you something that you need, something that you can use and know that I helped them in the process. It'll warm my heart and it'll feed my soul. So that's why I tell you about the Carrollton Fraternal Order of Police. Alright. I'm not a doctor, never had any conventional medical training, just for educational purposes only, based on my experience and what I've been doing the past 6.5 years and my research. And when I say I've done research, I promise you, this is just a small scratch of the surface up here on what I've researched. Everybody's different. When we talk about the doctors that I follow, all these guys have a different approach. Some of them are vegetarian, some of them are vegan, some of them are ketogenic guys. I mean, they're all over the board as far as their approach on nutrition and health. But the one thing that they all agree on is what fasting does to your body and what fasting does to your immune system. So I try to bring you the commonality of what all these guys believe in that sense. Now, if you're overweight, obese, type 2 diabetic, Dr. Jason Rowell is your guy. He's a nephrologist from Canada. He has several books. This is one of them. I've read and or listened to this book on multiple occasions. It's called The Complete Guide to Fasting. This guy has taken type 2 diabetics that's been on diabetic medication for 20 plus years and had them completely off that medication within 2 or 3 months, using a fasting protocol and nutrition, and that's it. So if you're type 2 diabetic, look into this guy. Cancer patients. This lady right here, Nasha Winters, I've heard it pronounced Nasha, I've heard it pronounced Nasha. She was diagnosed with metastatic ovarian cancer in October of 1991. Not only is she alive today, but she is an integrated oncologist in Colorado. She's very sharp. This is her book right here, The Metabolic Approach to Cancer. Some really good stuff in this book. So if you're a cancer patient, check out her. Joseph Maroon, he's an interesting subject. He's actually the neurosurgeon / consultant for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he has been for the past 22, 23 years. The man is 71 years old. He has done 8 Ironman competitions. The last Ironman he did, he was 67. So it hadn't been that long ago. I mean, the man is sharp. I was reading transcripts of the interview that he was doing not that long ago. 2 things he said in the interview that caught my attention. Number 1, humans have been eating a ketogenic diet for the past 3 million years. But unfortunately, 60 or 70 years ago, that diet got turned upside down on its head. That was one thing he said. The second thing he said that caught my attention was, sugar is an addiction. Some compare that addiction to cocaine. He said, but it will take your body anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks to get over the addiction of sugar once you stop feeding yourself sugar. So I thought that was interesting. He has a book called Square One, very sharp guy. If you're going through chemotherapy, this guy right here, Walter Longo, he's a professor, he's actually a biologist and a professor at the University of Southern California. He started studying fasting as it pertained to aging, as an anti-aging thing. But it slowly progressed into studying it for disease because he realized that what fasting was doing to the body had the ability to impact different diseases. So then he began to study it as it related to specific illnesses. But what he has right now, he has a human trial study going on at the Kenneth North Cancer Treatment Center in Los Angeles, California. And what he's doing out there is he's putting patients on like a 5-day fast, or maybe even a 6-day or 7-day fast. But he's fasting them for 2 or 3 days, and then they're having chemo, and then they fast for another couple of days, and then they start the process of refeeding. And what that does when you fast like that, basically it protects your normal healthy cells, but it puts your cancer cells, it makes them a lot more vulnerable to the chemo. And he's learning that people who fast during chemo do not have the same side effects as the people who are not fasting. And so far they're having really good results of that study. Now, the first place that was brought to my attention, there is a documentary on Amazon Prime called The Science of Fasting. And they actually talked about that study and what he has done out in Southern California. So look into him. He's a good one. David Jockers. Dr. David Jockers has a clinic here in Kennesaw, Exodus Healthcare. So he's a local guy, he's a Georgia guy. Very sharp, very intelligent. I've never met him, I've never personally met him, but I've watched enough interviews, I've read enough of his papers, his newsletters, and I've seen enough of his Facebook posts to where I feel confident that he is a good-hearted Christian man that has the best interests of his patients in mind. But he has a wide range. I mean, he's very sharp on the ketogenic diet and the healthy way to do keto. So there is a very unhealthy, bad, dirty way to do ketogenic, and that's where a lot of people go wrong. But he has an excellent. Look, that's not good. It's a starter guide. It's a starter guide for people. It's called Navigating the Ketogenic Diet. And it's just a program. He has a quick start guide in there. He has recipes. A lot of good information about the ketogenic diet. But he's short on cancer, autoimmune diseases, neurodegenerative diseases. I mean, he is just a well-rounded, very sharp guy. But this is where the majority of my information comes from. All these guys, I follow them, I watch them, I listen to podcasts and so forth that have these guys on. Now, what's funny is if you embed yourself in it the way that I do, is you hear them start picking at each other. You got the vegan over here, and the ketogenic guy over here, and somehow I'll say, well, Mr. Goldhammer's a vegan. Do you tell your patients to juice? And he goes, well, no, I don't like for my patients to juice because we didn't have juicers 3,000 or 4,000 years ago. I like for them to get back to the basic human diet. And the ketogenic guys over here, and the person interviewing them will say, well, you recommend juicing, but Goldhammer don't recommend his patients to juice. How come? He said, well, I saw that interview, and Goldhammer said they didn't have juicers 2,000 or 3,000 years ago. He said, but let me tell you what they did have. They had buffalo, they had elk, they had deer, they had plenty of meat to go around back then. He said, so Joe Hammer's a vegan. I highly respect him, but I mean, at one point in time, our diet was 2/3 meat. So they go back to Joe Hammer at some point in the future, and they say, well, Jocker said at one time that our diet was 2/3 meat. And he goes, well, that's right, it was. However, the average life expectancy back then was only 35 years old. So that's not good. So they go back to Jockers and they say, hey, Joel Hammer said that the life expectancy when our diet was 2/3 meat, that the life expectancy was 35 years old. And Jocker goes, that's right. That's absolutely correct. That statement right there. But what he's leaving out is the fact that they had a very high infant mortality rate. And that's why the average life expectancy was 35 years old. It had absolutely nothing to do with the diet. He says, as a matter of fact, if you made it to the age of 15, then you lived to be around 72 to 75 years old. So you can sit there and drive yourself crazy listening to the arguments, trying to figure out vegan, vegetarian, ketogenic, what's the best diet. Here is my opinion. I think there's pros and cons to every one of them. Before I started eating ketogenic, I was on a raw diet. It was called the Blood Protocol, but it was pretty much a vegetarian diet. About once or twice a week, I would have organic turkey, organic chicken, or some wild caught fish, but for the most part, it was a vegetarian diet. I can honestly say that as far as my blood pressure goes, that was the best I'd ever seen my blood pressure. I had genetics on both sides, my mom's side and my dad's side, with our family with high blood pressure. I have 3 siblings. As far as I know, all 3 of you guys are still on blood pressure medicine, right? Yeah. So with the vegetarian diet, that's the only time in my life where my blood pressure was really low. So I think there's pros and cons to all of them, and you just have to find what works for you. These guys down here don't have any titles behind their name, but this one right here is the father to this one. He has done 5 40-day water-only fasts in his life. And what he can tell you about the experience of that is priceless. I reached the point where I told my wife, I no longer care what title they have behind their name. Give me someone who's been through it, who's lived through it, who can tell me what the experience is, because every single one of the doctors that have looked at me at this point and recommended treatment, none of them has been through it themselves. I want somebody who's been through it. And when I found these guys right here, they're very sharp when it comes to fasting. So if you get on YouTube, if you do a Google search or whatever, you pull up these guys, they're very knowledgeable, but their knowledge comes from the experience of it. So people ask me, why do you do this? I first heard Charles Stanley talking about this in one of his sermons. Praise be to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of compassion and the God of our comfort, who comforts us in all of our troubles, so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the same comfort we ourselves receive from God. And Charles Stanley said, it is your obligation as a Christian that after you face adversity and you fall down on your back, once you get back on your feet, it's your obligation as a Christian to reach back and help somebody else that's in that same situation. So I went to my wife and I said, baby, listen to me. I said, I've done pretty good here. I said, but I feel obligated. I mean, I had people passing away all around me that I had met along my journey. James Dooley was one of them. If y'all knew Tom Nelson over here, he passed away. I mean, there's people dying all around me because when you go through this journey, you make friends, you make connections with these people. So I told my wife, I said, I feel obligated in some way to go out and help somebody that's walking down the same path I'm going down, or that I've been through. And she said, well, I'll go ahead and tell you, I don't know of another human being on this planet that's going to do what you do just to take your next breath. And I said, that's not my problem. I said, I'll provide the tools. Whether they do it is completely up to them. I said, but I disagree with you. I said, I think there are people out there that's willing to do what I do. I said, because when you're put in a sink or swim situation, you would be amazed at how many different ways you figure out how to swim. And I said, that's all I've done. I just figured out how to swim. Now I just want to reach back and teach somebody else how to swim. Denzel Washington, I think he said it best. I was listening to a speech with Denzel. And the reason guys, I'm telling you, I fill my brain with nothing but optimism and motivation and positivity. I stopped watching TV and the news a year and a half ago. People would come up to me telling me about stuff that's going on with Trump, stuff that's going on with Hillary, and all this political crap and something else. And I'm like, hey, you know what? I haven't watched it in a year and a half. I fill my head with positive and optimistic. So I'm listening to Denzel. He's an awesome motivational speaker. And he says that one of the keys to life is if you get knocked down 7 times, you get up 8. But when you're on your feet, if you look around and you see somebody else knocked down, then you help them up because there's strength in them. And I will tell you, there is strength in that. It feeds my soul to have somebody that came to my first seminar or my second seminar come up to me and say, you helped transform my life. And I'll be forever thankful for that. That feeds my soul. So there is strength in that. I've also seen it put this way. I love when people that have walked through hell walked out of the flames carrying buckets of water for those who are consumed by the fire. My history, I am going to blow through this right here for time's sake, okay? Just know that my life is an open book. If there's something specific you want to ask me, please ask me, I'll tell you. But there's a lot of stuff on the other side of this that I want to share with you guys, so I'm going to blow through it. I was born here, Tanner Hospital in Carrollton, raised in Harrison County. I graduated high school up there. I moved here in 1992 to attend West Georgia College. I got my first job as a police officer in 1995 with the city of Carrollton. I stayed there up until I actually went to Douglas County. I was an investigator in Douglas County when I was diagnosed in 2013. After I went through the initial treatment, I told my wife, I'm ready to come back home. Carrollton was home to me. I called the chief. Luckily, I had a relationship with the chief. I said, Chief, I'm ready to come home. He said, Jason, you have an open door at this police department. So whenever you're ready, you come back. So luckily, I was able to come back. I bought my first home in Carrollton in 1995. I've been around here ever since. Tuesday, March the 5th, 2013, Amy and I found out we were having a little girl. I was ecstatic. I had always prayed for a little girl. Amy had gotten pregnant, and on that day we found out we were having a little girl. I was on top of the world. 10 days later, on Friday, March 15th, I go to ENT with ear pain. I had had ear pain for years, but it got to the point where I couldn't tolerate it anymore. So I go to him for the ear pain, and I say, hey, Doc, It's getting where all the Advil I take, or all the goodies I take, and it's just not touching the pain. I mean, something just ain't right. He sends me for a CAT scan. I go back to his office, sit down in the chair. He don't even, there was no warming up to it or nothing. I sit down, he walks in the door and he looks at me and he goes, "You have stage 4 basal tone cancer. It's down into your jawbone. It has nerves from the right side of your ear tangled into the tumor. It's going down your neck a little bit. There's a 50-50 chance that you'll live over the next 5 years." I learned a very valuable lesson that day, and that lesson was, if you have a slight bit of chance of getting that kind of news from the doctor, don't drive yourself to the doctor's office. Because to this day, I have no idea how I got home. No idea. I got sick at my stomach, I puked. I sat on the toilet for about 30 minutes at the doctor's office before I left. I went blank. I had no idea. So that was 10 days after the fact. So I'm stayed here, and then the doctor just rocked my world. Stage 4 throat cancer. I went through chemo and radiation. Not long after that, the cancer flew under the radar for about 9 months. In May of 2014, they told me that the cancer was back. The surgeon's exact words was, "We can do surgery on you and take this out, and you can grow old and die of a heart attack like the rest of us." So that's when I did the surgery. They removed 55% of my tongue. They gutted the right side of my neck. They took a vein from right here in my arm, hooked it up here, somehow transferred all this tissue from here up to here. They did the reconstruction and took skin from my leg to patch my arm, and that was the surgery. I had to learn to talk again. I had to learn to eat again. I had feeding tubes. As a matter of fact, at this point, I've had multiple feeding tubes here and there. But that was my surgery. This is me on the left. Before, I actually had just got my feeding tube in that picture on the left. I was in a band. I was in music real heavy. I was washed and I was polished. I was waxed on the outside. But what people didn't know, on the inside, my engine was knocking. My carburetor was clogging. I was in dire need of an oil change. My check engine light had been on for years. And the worst part about it is my brakes didn't work. I didn't have a stop button. I just kept going. I was burning a candle at both ends. And that's why once the pain wore off for hearing, you have stage 4 cancer, I wasn't surprised. Just to give you a small example, these ladies right here work with me with Burt's Big Adventure. We're in Orlando in 2012. I played in this band. I played in it for several years. I walked out of Hollywood Studios at 2 p.m. I got on a monorail that took me back to our hotel. I hopped in a Tahoe that they had rented for me. I drove that Tahoe to the airport. I hopped on an airplane. I flew into Atlanta. I was picked up at the airport. They took me to Villa Rica to play a gig at the Cinema Tavern. I stayed down there and I played music for about 3 or 4 hours. I got finished with the gig. I had the band load up. They took me back to the airport. I hopped back on a plane in Atlanta, flew to Orlando, got in that Tahoe, drove back to the hotel. These guys were loading the bus to go to the Animal Kingdom. I ran in the hotel room. I changed shirts. I went and I jumped on the bus. and I didn't sleep a wink. That was my life for about 5 years.
I wasn't even sure I liked you
You didn't. You didn't. This guy right here had a certain cockiness to him that has been totally wiped out. I promise you it has. And even now, today, it's funny you say that
I
because,
love you a lot, Jason.
oh, I love you too. But I told my wife, it's funny you say that because I literally told her 3 days ago. I said, stop treating me for who I was and start treating me for who I am. About 3 days ago, who I am today. So, that was me back then. That was the life I was living. 2 months after I started my treatment, I had lost 36 pounds. Here I am with this is actually my 40th birthday party on the right. This is after the surgery they cut me from ear to ear, and they actually took out my jaw and set it aside. While they did what they needed to do, they put my jaw back in place, stapled me up. That tube right there ended up being, there's been 3 times during this process that I was fairly certain I was going to die. And not this time, but that tube right there. I ended up in the emergency room. I had no idea what was wrong with me. I just knew that something wasn't right. I felt bad. I felt horrible. Couldn't raise my arms. I mean, I didn't have the energy to move. So I ended up in the emergency room, and this is the one time that it did not pay to be married to an ER nurse. She's sitting in the chair, reading the magazine. I'm laying in the bed. As I lay there, I say to myself, this is it. There's no way to feel like I do right now without it being my time. I'm about to die. So I said, hey baby, I said, listen to me a minute. I said, we need to have a heart to heart. She said, yeah. I said, well look, I'm about to die. I said, I'm fairly certain. And we just need to talk about things to make sure that everything's in order. And she goes, just turns the page. She's reading. She says, hush, I don't want to hear that. You're not about to die. You're going to be fine. And she just kept reading. And I'm laying in the bed and I said, did you seriously just roll your eyes at me? And I'm laying here in the hospital bed about to die and you're serious about it? I said, you know what, if I could raise my arm, I would slow your lip right now. But I can't raise my arm. 4 days later, I'm in Emory. I was admitted for a staph infection, right where that tube ran. And that staph went all the way back to the back of my throat. I had been in Emory for 4 days, and I decided, especially on the influence of pain medication, that I was ready to go home. So I got up out of the bed and I walked over to the closet and I started getting my belongings. And my wife said, what did you do? I said, I'm going home. I had enough of this place a couple of months ago when I had surgery. I'm not staying here. And I know the rules. They can't keep me here, so I'm going home. She said, you do realize that what you have going on in your neck could kill you. And I was like, oh, no, 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 no. I tried to tell you 3 or 4 days ago that it was going to kill me, and you said that it was not going to kill me. I said, so you can't have it both ways. Make up your mind, is it going to kill me or is it not? But I'm going home. Needless to say, I didn't go home. I stayed in the hospital. I think I stayed there for 10 days. Yeah, 10 days that time. I ended up having a total of 64 treatments of vancomycin for the staph infection. But that was the first time that I thought I was going to die. Got past that. A few months later, in January 2015, I had a routine PET scan. Doctor sits me down in Emory. He says, I have some bad news for you. The cancer's returned in your neck. It has now metastasized to your lungs. There's nothing we can do at this point other than palliative care. It'll be a miracle if you're alive in 3 years. So we couldn't do more. Have a good day. And I'm like, wait, hold on. Say what? So he turns the computer around, he showed me, he said, the PET scan lit up like a Christmas tree. And you have cancer here, it's moved down in your lungs, you have any two lymph nodes down in your lungs, and be a miracle if you're alive in 3 years. On Monday, February the 16th, 34 days later, I received a phone call and was told that the 11 biopsies they did revealed no cancer. Now, he told me, when he gave me that information, he said it's standard protocol to do the biopsies to make sure that this PET scan is correct. He said, but I can go ahead and tell you I've been doing this for a long time, and the PET scan is correct. Well, they ended up doing 8 needle biopsies on my neck. They did one core biopsy in the back of my throat, and then they did 2 biopsies in my lungs. So they did 11 total biopsies. Between getting those appointments set up, getting the biopsies, and then waiting for the time for all that to come back, it was 34 days later. 2015, I'm laying on the sofa, and I told my wife, I'm tired of this feeling. It's getting on my nerves, and it's hanging out. I can't say, I'm just tired. I said, take this thing out. And I know you can because you're in your army. So take it out. And she said, well, they told you if you take that feeding tube out and you start back trying to eat by mouth, you're going to have a problem with aspiration pneumonia. And you're going to have to overcome that. And I was like, I don't care, take it out. So my wife took the feeding tube out. 3 admissions to the hospital, back to back to back, for aspiration pneumonia. First 2 times I was at Emory, last time I was at Tanner. Later in the hospital bed at Tanner, Dr. Brad Black comes in. I don't know how many of you guys know Brad. He's an awesome individual. He comes in, I was kind of in and out of it. I didn't rest so well that night. You know, they tell you to get rest and get some sleep in the hospital, but you have train tracks right outside your window. They mop the floor right outside your door at midnight. Apparently the nursing staff had a comedian on staff because they laughed their butts off all night long out there. So I was kind of in and out of it when Brad came in and sat down. And he looked at my throat and he said, son, the cancer's not going to kill you, but the pneumonia is. If you don't figure out a way to keep your lungs cleared out. He said, you're either going to have to run, you're going to have to bike, you're going to have to swim, you're going to have to deep breathe. That's the only way you're going to be able to keep your lungs cleared out. That's the only choice. So I left there that day and I said, when I get over this pneumonia, I ain't coming back. And that's when I started running. As a matter of fact, I would run, I would come back, I would hop on my bicycle, I would take off on my bicycle. I came back from that, and then I would get on a mini trampoline for about 15 minutes. And I would do the mini trampoline. And that's how I kept my lungs cleared out. To this day, that's what I have to do, and that's what I was doing up until I busted my knee. Now, for you guys that's never been on a mini trampoline, let me tell you something. I had read that it was good to keep your lymph system flowing. One of these guys says your lymph system is like your sewer system, and you need to keep it flowing. And they said that the mini trampoline was the best way to do that. So I hopped on that trampoline. I told my wife, I said, this is going to be easy. I said, time me. I started jumping. I started getting out of breath. And before I know it, I'm going, all right, baby, how long has it been? 3 minutes. I was like, 3 minutes? You have got to be kidding me. I've only been over here 3 minutes. She said, yes. So I started at 5. And I worked my way up to 7. And then I worked my way up to 10. And I got to a point to where when I hopped on that thing, I would stay for about 15 minutes. I wouldn't have any break. So I worked my way up. 2015, I had a CAT scan at Tanner. They said it was clear. But then I had another one in April of 2016. The police department was asking for an updated record of my health. So I went and had that scan, and the doctor called me up and he said, I think it's clear, but there's a little bit of something in the back of your throat. It may be scar tissue. But if you'll go to an ENT and let them look at it, they should be able to clear you by running a scope. So I went to the ENT, he scoped me, he said, I don't see anything, you're good. This was my spot twice a day, from 8 to 10 in the morning, and from 8 to 10 in the evening. That's how I received my treatments for the vancomycin. This is where I was thankful that my wife was a nurse, because she took care of every bit of that for me. Okay. Can anybody tell me what this is right here? This little brown thing. Some of you ladies in here. Yeah. That's a bra. I wore a strapless compression bra to cover my feeding tube. It was easier to use and expand. But here's a conversation that I thought I would never have. Hey baby, hey look, I'm at the house and I'm looking for my bras. Have you seen them? Because I cannot find my bras anywhere. So, that's what I wore to cover my feeding tube. Let's take 10 minutes. I think Mindy is going to show you guys my bone broth recipe back here, so that by the end of this thing, we'll all be able to sample some of that bone broth. It is the most nutrient-dense liquid form of nutrition that you can put in your body. I mean, it's fantastic. So let's take 10.